we're saving thousands of hours a month now from a few months ago, just because a lot of this stuff's being done for people.
7,000 hours a month to be exact.
Something in that general range. Yeah.
I mean, that's insane. By the way, what was step number one towards this 150 plus AI workflow output?
You're listening to Unchurned, brought to you by the Gainsight Podcast Network. When Cloudbeds handed Colin Slade zero budget and a CS team at 120% capacity, he did something radical. He told his ops team to drop everything and bet the house on AI. 9 months later, 75% of grunt work gone, 7,000 hours reclaimed every month, and a company-wide revolution sparked by pure FOMO. I'm Josh Schachter, and this is Unchurned.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Unchurned. I'm your host, Josh Schachter, and I'm here this week with Colin Slade. Colin is the Senior Vice President of AI Strategy and Customer Success at Cloudbeds. Colin, thank you for being on the program.
Josh, excited to be here.
I start out just out of unoriginality every episode saying, I'm so excited about this episode because, blah, blah, blah. And then sometimes I'm really excited, sometimes I'm not so excited. But I am so excited about talking to you today. And I say that with a lot of emphasis because you and I have been chatting for a few weeks right now. As you know, in my role mandate at Gainsight, I'm the Senior Vice President of Strategy and Market Development. And the market development piece there effectively means understand the market, understand what's going on right now in the world of AI and the confluence of AI and retention, post-sales, customer success, all the things. And I've spent the last several months since I joined Gainsight talking to VPs, CCOs, leaders across the board in SaaS, understanding, what they're doing with AI. And there's one person who, in my opinion, is leaps and bounds ahead of everybody else. And guess who that person is? Colin Slade.
I hope it's me since you're asking.
It would be really awkward if it were
Jimmy.
Yeah. My peer Jenny. No, it's Colin. It's you. You're like so far ahead of everybody, but in a way also where we know that things are in dog years right now with AI. So like within 3 months, probably my hope is that everybody gets not 3 months. It's gonna take more than 3 months. But I hope is that within 9 months, we're talking to many more leaders that are in a place where you are right now today. And I know it's been a very concerted, intentional effort for you to get to where you are right now as my poster boy for AI leadership in CS transformation.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, of course. So we're going to talk about all things. We are filming this before Pulse Europe, Gainsight's Pulse Europe. That being said, we're filming this partly in preparation for my entire Pulse presentation around AI is devoted to you, to a spotlight on what you are doing. There's that much stuff that you are doing in AI that I told the team at Gainsight, the marketing team, you know what? I'm not going to sit there and give key takeaways from my learnings in the market, blah, blah. I'm just going to showcase Colin. I just want everybody to unpack what he's doing so they can learn from him. So we're doing this as an
Very
addendum
humble,
to that.
appreciate it.
Of course. And this will come out right, I think, around the same time or maybe a day before we do the presentation in Dublin. And it'll be good content for people to follow up with to get to hear this in your own words, since I'll be the one relaying it out in Dublin. Okay, with that very long introduction, welcome. And why don't do you want to share? You want to give us the high notes of what's been going on, like what the culmination of your efforts have been in AI?
Sure. I mean, I think we're both long-winded, so you can cut me off and keep me directed. I studied AI way back in the day, so we finally arrived at a point where I can actually do it. I led customer success for 7 years, then I left, came back, led the people team, and then
Cloudbeds.
Cloudbeds, yeah. And so about 9 months ago, kind of took back over the people team, and pretty much was like, you need to kind of turn this around. You have zero budget, you have zero resources, you don't have any tools. And I'd already been dabbling in AI on the side, right? I'm definitely one of the users who's constantly, every night I'm spending watching YouTube videos about RAG vector databases and, joining all the different communities and trying to build stuff with Lovable. And so I had already had a lot of ideas. And so now it was a very much like, we need to try to apply this in an enterprise level at a company and see if it works. And luckily I had the two co-founders of Cloudbeds are very much in AI, especially the CEO. And so he was just sort of like, yeah, go figure it out. Just go try things. And so I took a CS. So no one was really using AI. We'd all been given Gemini. There was low usage. People were using it for little bits and pieces, but not really anything. And so I took a CS ops team. I remember sitting down with them and just basically saying, I know you've never heard of this tool called N8N. I know you don't really know about what agents and automations and differences are, but this seems like the best team to do it. Do you want to do it? They're all like very excited. And so we just started to build stuff. And it's where now we're building, I mean, they just launched a couple new things today. We're building stuff in days versus weeks and months. And it's been awesome to see and really fun to get real value out of it. And it's worked, which is fairly surprising based on where we started.
What'd you launch today?
So the team was like listing off things. I literally stopped the team and I was like, I just want us to remember what this conversation was 6 months ago. So we launched our knowledge system to the entire sales team today. So we launched a little brand bot. So as of today, Cloudbeds has a new brand. So we created a little AI chatbot that you can ask any question about the new brand and it will tell you the answer based off of all the marketing materials and all the team. And so, and then we also launched a new a Zendesk macro search. So now you can find any template inside of Zendesk that you need to use when you're responding to a customer, whether you're an account manager, or an onboarding coach, or we call them coaches, or a sales support person.
Awesome. So I buried the lead a little bit here because I praised you, but I didn't really explain like why I'm so impressed with what you've done. You've launched over, and of course it grew today, but you've launched over 150 AI workflows / agents. Sometimes there's a fuzzy area, right? Gray area between what's an agent,
sure.
what's an AI workflow. And we like to claim it's agents, but they're not really agents, but it makes us sound better, blah, blah, blah. But you've launched 150 plus of those things. You were with Cloudbeds pre-ZERP, right? No, sorry. You were with Cloudbeds during the ZERP era, the zero interest rate, like the glory days of SaaS, when
sure.
when you had unlimited budgets and everything was off and to the right, and then you took another role. You came back post ZERP when there is tightening of the belt. You came back
and post launch of ChatGPT and post launch of sort of AI coming into the space, which obviously had never really existed.
Right. The company was still growing. I mean, they'd added 5,000 customers that previous year. You had zero, but like there were still constraints, right? You didn't have budget.
Yep.
They didn't give you any budget for hiring or for tools. The team was overstretched. You told us they were at 120% of capacity, your post-sales team. And you'd also mentioned before that there was just a fragmented experience, customer experience, different silent information across the teams.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, and I think a key piece of this is that we had gone through a RIF maybe 6 months before I took back over. And so we'd also lost people. So we also have 40% less staff than we had, let's call it a year and a half ago with these, additional customers, with this additional product lines. It's not like everyone stops developing new stuff. So the complexity got harder. The customers got more complex and we had less people. Not just we didn't hire new people, we literally lost a decent percentage of people over time.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, this is classic. This is not just Cloudbeds. This is a SaaS story. This is a SaaS industry story, post-sales story as well.
For sure.
And when you came in, like you said, you had the support. You've had the support of your executives, of the CEO. But basically, they wanted you all in on AI as well, right? So it wasn't like you had to push uphill against that. You had that endorsement.
No, yeah, but they weren't fully convinced, right? So there was a lot of executives at the company who were sort of like, I don't know if this AI is a bubble thing. I don't see how it can help me within my department. I'm not convinced that you can, augment real people. It still was very much like, yeah, it's cool to ask where I should go out to eat or act as a therapist or help me write an email, but can it really do real actions? And so that was kind of my directive from our CEO, was basically like, you got to go prove to people that this is legit and this is powerful. And now as of a week or two ago, I'm now the head of AI strategy. So now I'm taking over AI strategy for the whole company. So it took a while to obviously get to that point, but everyone has seen what we've been able to do with this small team it was originally 5 people. Now it's down to 4 people and me. And so that's the team that's been building all of this. And one person knows a little bit of Python, kind of. He's the most technical of us all for sure. But everyone is just excited to learn and just hustling to try things.
Yeah. And you came in there, the goals from a business standpoint were to improve churn, create stronger activation during the onboarding journey process, and then again, unify that fragmented customer experience. So
yeah. And I mean, pretty much survived too, right? Everyone was we were asked to do more, and so all those things were broken. And obviously our number one directive at post sales is to, activate the new sales and to keep the current sales and lower churn. And so that is always our number one goal. But there were also just other pieces that had to happen too. The team needed to feel like they were part of something. And change management's not talked about enough. Like we gave everyone Gemini and no one used it because they're all afraid that, well, not all of them, but a lot of them were afraid that if it showed that it could do a better answer than them, that they'd be replaced.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's hard to get everyone to actually use these things, even if you're paying for them or even if you set them up.
How'd you know that? How did you know that there was that fear? I mean, that's not something I would imagine would come directly to your office. People would say to you directly, or did it?
Not really. No, it's indirect. Like you start talking to the leads and the managers and the smaller teams. When I first came in, I went and met with a lot of the different people and leaders and teams. And they don't say it directly. It's more like, I got to read a lot, or I just don't think it does a really good job. And you're kind of like, yeah, but it's better for you. And I think what I realized, two things I realized. One, I had to let them know that their job was not at risk.
Mm-hmm.
Like this wasn't going to replace them. But if they didn't use it and try to like get the full value, and like we could train them to be the best, whatever, CSM, customer support, like actually using AI better than anyone else in the industry, they could go get a job anywhere. So I basically was like, give me if you're willing to learn and push yourself, I will give you the tools, I will give you the training. And then if it doesn't work out here, doesn't matter. You'll be at the top of everyone's list because you know how to implement AI into your daily work. So that was one piece. And the second piece was we initially tried to have people create prompts and figure out how to use all the tools. And what we realized pretty quickly is that it's a very much a baby steps thing. Most people's mind is not opened up to what is actually possible with AI. And so we had to show it to them first. And we have this saying that we had to make the AI invisible. Like it had to be within their daily life and it had to do things that made their life easier. And they didn't need to create a prompt or do anything crazy like contextual engineering or any of that kind of stuff. We would provide them basically the solution or the augmented, partial solution, and then they could add the rest. And we're in hospitality tech, so we're never going to not have people who want to talk to people, right? It's never going to be AI is handling everything. This was trying to make our team, 2, 4, 5 times more effective and have all the information that we store in our systems actually available to be used and do a bunch of the busy work and the manual stuff for them. So they can focus on the relationship and the outcomes.
And this, like you said, this wasn't a nice to have. This was a must have for you guys as a business.
In our case, for sure.
Yeah. A lot of people out there listening in their cases as well.
Probably.
And what you were mentioning about like the psyche of the team, it actually reminds you, was it Franklin Roosevelt? The only thing you have to fear is fear itself. I hear that, from folks. It's like, it was at a conference yesterday with the sales executive at OpenAI. And she was talking about the future of the workforce with AI. And it was the same thing. It's like, the only people that really should be concerned about AI are the people that are, not like that are afraid to get into it now.
Ignoring it.
Ignoring it, like that. Those are the only people that should, like the people that embrace it. Those are the ones that it's going to help amplify and augment. Okay. What was step one coming in here? You've got this mandate. We have the context now of what the situation was at the company, what your expectations and goals were with your CEO. What was step number one towards this 150 plus AI workflow output?
Yeah. So, I mean, step one now would be a little different than step one, what it was. So initially I tried to go 100 miles an hour and go, all right, we're building out all these workflows. Let's get in and you just dive in there. And no one knew what the heck was going on, right? We didn't have any knowledge, any buildup. And so our very first thing we tried to build was this super complicated customer feedback tool where in Slack, you could, send in a ticket or send in a customer call and would automatically analyze it, check Jira for duplicates, then go check the product manager for the PRD. Like it would do like 17 different things. And it did partially work, but it was way over engineered, right? And we spent, weeks working on this and it was just sort of like, so then we changed tactics and was like, let's stop. Let's just solve small outcomes and start getting our feet wet, start getting comfortable. And so the very first thing that we created after that was a little sentiment bot. It would monitor every single email and ticket that was coming in to Zendesk, and it would send it to AI, analyze whether the person was angry, neutral, or happy, right? And depending on what they were, it would add it to the ticket so we could track it for later, and it would put it inside of an internal note and then do something. So if it was there's multiple angry tickets from the same person, it would send a Slack message to ping someone that needs to go deal with it. And so that solved the problem that we were having, which was we couldn't see really quickly who was in trouble, right? Who was at risk. And so that was sort of the first step. And we started adding a few more of those. So not just sentiment, but what needs to be escalated. Then we started to try to solve the knowledge issue, right? So could AI try to answer the ticket? Could AI triage the ticket or the situation? And then we started to go a little bit deeper and say, now let's download like all of our calls and turn them into sales handoff notes automatically for the onboarding team or for the account management team. And so that's so step one was just small little, tiny little wins, AIs, getting used to it, started showing the teams. They started to have better ideas. Because if you go ask your team right now, what do you want me to build in AI? They're honestly, their ideas are terrible because they don't know what's possible. So they give you like what's right in front of them. Oh, it'd be really great if you could help me write my emails. And you're like, okay, now our teams, I'm getting literally like full 2-3 page documents. In fact, I could show one that came in today. Like they want to build a risk analysis billing engine, right? It checks 10 different things and sends out emails and goes into our system and our billing system. Like that wasn't even a possibility for people to suggest like a couple months ago. But now that they've seen examples of things that can do a bunch of stuff, they have opened their minds. And so you got to show them the little bits. That was the first step. Second step is we started to actually build workflows and automations using N8N. So multi-step things like, okay, now when a ticket comes in and we see sentiment, don't just read the sentiment, try to do something about the sentiment, right? Then we started to get into more of an agentic, right? So there's certain use cases where, this is where, like you said, the little gray area, like everyone calls everything agents, right? But the way that I define agents is, or multi-agents is like, the system needs to reason. It needs to make its own decisions. And in most enterprise business cases, you don't want the AI to make its own decisions. It's too dangerous. But there are cases where you can put very clear guardrails around it, where you're like, yeah, I want you to make this decision. Is this person happy or sad? That's an easy thing for AI to do. And if it's wrong 2% of the time, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
Like it's not going to be detrimental. But like the other opposite would be, you've heard all the stories about like the person was able to do code injection on a prompt and get a Ford truck for free from the dealership, right? Because they figured out how to prompt the agent that was reasoning, and it reasoned its way out of the restrictions. So you got to be careful with that. But you go from real basic to basically agents and automations. Then you go into some agents, like real agents making decisions. And then what we started now doing recently is you start putting those into different interfaces and building it into people's flows. So we've been building Zendesk sidebar apps. We've been building full-on apps using Google AI Studio or using Lovable. And we've also been building Slack bots, Salesforce interfaces. We're kind of now in the point where we need to figure out where do we put it to give the best value.
Yeah.
And now it's doing multi-steps and it's hitting APIs, it's hitting our systems, hitting all the other systems. It's calculating, answers to questions from the KBs. But that's like way farther down the road, right? Initially, you just got to start getting wins, and then your team will start telling you where you can solve some of these things to help them. Literally, I mean, we're saving thousands of hours a month now from a few months ago, just because a lot of this stuff's being done for people.
7,000 hours a month to be
exact. Something
in
that general range. Yeah.
I mean, that's insane. By the way, we didn't talk about this. What's like the layout of your org, size wise?
So we have, so we're about, I think I just saw it. We're about 250, somewhere between 250 and 300 people. It's pretty much everything post sales. So I co-lead the CS as of recently with Marshall Knopf, who's been a good buddy of mine for a long time. So he's got sort of the onboarding side and now has recently taken ops. I have the support side, advanced support, training and enablement, now the AI solutions team, which was a CS ops, tech ops team. And then we also have an account management team, which handles renewals and relationship. And then I don't handle, so one difference, there's some CS teams is, and I used to manage it, but the CGM, we call them CGMs, but our sort of more traditional CSM upsell team is on the go-to-market org. So we're still building out things to support them, but it hasn't been our priority up to this point.
So this is this is 250 in the post-sales org. This is, just to make it clear to people, this is not a 20-person team. This is at scale.
This is at scale. Yeah, I mean, we're getting, somewhere in the range of 30,000 tickets a month, right?
Yeah.
Just on that side, just on the support side. So you can imagine that scales out to all the different areas. And we're in 150 countries for our customer base, and 20,000 plus customers. So it's challenging. There's lots of cultures, that's the other thing too. Our AI had to not just handle English. It needed to be able to handle a whole bunch of languages and cultures, and which adds a different level of complexity.
Sure. When I hear at scale, generally I also start thinking about environments, technical environments, dev versus production. And oftentimes that becomes a bottleneck for folks at larger companies trying to do these types of things. Can you talk a little bit about how how that went for you guys?
Yeah, so it's always challenging. So I'm sort of like IT's best friend and worst nightmare because, in fact, today they were asking me who created this random OpenAI API, connection, which was me, but I forgot to name it, so they don't know where it came from, but it's in all kinds of places. And so um, I think it is challenging because I think from an IT perspective, they want to make sure that all of our data and security perspective is secure and all that type of stuff. What we did is try to include them in the whole time. So they've been a part of this whole process, and they were testing end-to-end at the same time. They've done some of their own applications and things like that. And so we've been in lockstep. And at times I've made them feel very uncomfortable because this was all sort of a prototype, right? These are all sort of POCs. Like, will this work? Can we do this? Like, can I get access to a Pinecone database to try out this vector database solution? We never used Pinecone. What's their security credentials, and are they SOC 2 compliant and all that kind of stuff? And luckily they were, so it was pretty easy. So we started testing as of recently because this has all worked so well. Now we went to more of an enterprise level N8N. Now we're locking things down. We're making sure the credentials are correct. But to be honest, for a long time, we're just trying to get things to work, right?
Yeah.
And so I think if you can keep them in the loop, it's really good. But also, I think they have to be willing to let you take some risks and try out some stuff and connect to some systems that they might be a little uncomfortable with to get to those solutions and get it there. We were very careful, like, if we brought in anyone outside, they signed obviously, contracts and NDAs and all that kind of stuff to make sure it was secure. We're very careful what we send to the foundational models, but we also just didn't let that stop us. We just tried stuff and we just tested and we just tried to figure it out. So I think to scale, you got to start small. And then when you get to the point where okay, now we need to really go to the whole company, or we need to really go to large data sets, then you need to start looking at, okay, maybe we go off of Pinecone to Snowflake, right? A much larger system. Like maybe now we need to not have Colin's login as the API credentials. We need to have a set, system credentials that multiple teams, like, you get there, but we're just getting there now. That should not stop you from building all these things. You absolutely can do it with still security, but without having too much. I think the fear of things prevents people from innovating. And I think you should be trying and innovating and then prove it that it's working and pretty secure. And then they get more comfortable.
So there's a little bit of there was nothing groundbreaking you just said there, Colin. It's a little bit of cozying up to IT, letting them know what you're working on, right? So that this is not just there's a larger mission behind this. It's a little bit of asking for forgiveness rather than permission, and then just using your sensibility, having the right paperwork and documentation.
And I think you need to have someone who knows a little. So I'm somewhat technical, right? I'm not. I was on my old days. I was a Java developer very briefly. Like, I know a little bit how to talk the talk. I know what their fears are. I know. So it does help if you have someone who's on your side, who's able to say, here's their, security page. It's okay. A lot of big companies are using them, right? If this huge company is using them to do this, we should be fine. That helped a lot. I used other, examples and scenarios to be like, we're way smaller than this company. If they're gonna, if Gainsight or OpenAI or whoever is using this, it's probably less risk than for us to try it. And so that helps to get it through the door. But yeah, no, it's nothing groundbreaking. It's just, a little bit of what you said, ask for some forgiveness, push. And also, once you start showing solutions and showing outcomes, it's really hard to stop that for the rest, because everyone is like, oh my gosh, let's keep going.
That's a good point. That's the best. There's the groundbreaking point, right? Just start to show the value and things will open up. Imagine that. In a separate conversation that you and I had, I got the impression that you came back to Cloudbeds and you basically transformed the ops team, the CS ops team, into AIOps, and making sure that you had your roster of the different roles and responsibilities that you needed set in place. So talk through that. When did that occur?
Yeah.
How did it occur? What's the lineup that you have now, et cetera?
So when we had a CS Tech Ops team, they're handling all the normal things you would handle, right? So they were doing, creating QBRs from scratch. They were helping with different systems. They were running some BI at times. They were we had one AI tool called Forethought, right, which is helping us with deflection, which we still use, and that's been a big piece of some of our solutions. And so we had one person that knew how to use that but we were still refining it. And so I I think we got really lucky, but I think where you want me to go is sort of, I have this philosophy that I think you need a couple of different pieces to make it work, right? And so I think you need what I call an AI visionary. It's usually an executive. They're sort of diving in deep. They're like, they're trying things at home. They're making things. They're following all the people on LinkedIn that talk about all the latest models and the, Sora and all that kind of stuff. Not because you're going to use all that in your business, because you can't use all of it. Sora isn't exactly useful for me, other than I do send some Sora videos to people to, congratulate them for winning awards and stuff like that. But, it's not really helping, I'm not going to send a Sora video to a customer.
If Sora were the cure-all for customer success, then Gainsight would have the highest NRR and GRR in the history of SAP because our CCO, Brent Kremkes, is hooked on Sora, and he's a phenomenal Sora.
Oh yeah, it's amazing. I spent a whole Saturday one time just completely. My wife was out of town. There was no one to keep track of me, and I'm just doing. I hit the limit. I didn't even know there was a limit, but there's 30 or 50 videos a day. I hit that limit on that Saturday. So yes, I think to get back on track, I think you need someone who, for a couple reasons, you need someone who can push through the budget if you need budget. You need someone
clear, this is you. This was you.
This is me in this particular case.
Does it have to be you? Does it have to be a senior vice president?
I don't think it has to be at the top level, but you need someone who, I think it has to be a director above. I think it has to be someone, it needs to be someone that's in these leadership calls or can deliver that information to the VP. They have to have a little bit of clout, because I think you need to be able to convince a bunch of skeptics that this is a good thing to try. This is a good thing to move towards. This is a good thing to, and I think it also helps to have that person as a little bit of a hype person. So I hype my team all over the place. I'm sharing what we're doing. And that gets people excited and allows us to have more leeway, more resources, more credit in a sense. And so I think that's really important. I think the other piece you need is you have to have company experts, right? You need the company ethos, the company knowledge. It's really hard for me to go in and develop an incredible AI solution for a CSM if I'm not doing CSM work. I don't know what their bottlenecks are on a daily basis. I might know some things, but I don't know the depth of their role. And I don't also know how Cloudbeds or Gainsight or whoever does it, right? It's a lot of tribal knowledge, a lot of tribal processes, a lot of things that have been done for years. And usually those aren't documented very well.
So that's the second archetype is the knowledge key master, let's call them.
Or there's probably a couple of those, right? So I think you need to have you got to have the visionary. You have to have this knowledge expert, right? This person that knows your company, probably is a few people, and depending on which areas. And then you need the operators, right? Ideally, you have a technical-ish type of operator. And when I mean technical, I mean they know a little bit of either JavaScript or HTML, or they've done some, maybe they've done a little bit of Python, or they know at least how to prompt Claude Code or ChatGPT to help them kind of massage their way through the technical pieces. And then you have just generally a non-technical AI operator, AI implementer, whatever you want to call it. So I got really lucky because the team was made up of, and then there's probably a final one, which is kind of the organized type A person who sort of keeps everything on track, right? Which isn't one that you have to have, but it does help to have someone that can do that. So in our case, we had a manager, her name is Olga. She's now left to go do AI and ops at a different place, which is awesome for her. But she helped kind of set the stage for, it was her team. It was her team that I took and said, hey, we're going to learn end-to-end. We're going to learn AI. I want you to dive into YouTube videos and check out Google AI Studio. And we're not just going to use Gemini. We're not just going to do ChatGPT, GPTs. We're going to actually build agents and applications and automations. And we're going to do it at scale. And we're going to focus on the outcome. And they were all excited. And we just got lucky. We have Gabriel on our team. He was doing BI. He kind of taught himself Python. He'd been doing some level of this, but not in the AI side of things. And so he helps us with our more technical stuff. Then I had Arena and Monica and Belle. They are more of the AI operators. And so they literally now, every one of them can build an incredible workflow in N8N or Google AI Studio or whatever you want to do it in within hours, if not days or hours versus months that would take most people. And you should just hear they just talk in solutions now. They don't even talk in what we used to talk about, which is we have no idea what the hell we're doing. How is this possible? What's an API? Now they know exactly how to do it for the most part. And then there was the one piece that we brought in help. We hired a team, a small little 2-person developer team out of Brazil to help us with our RAG system, our knowledge system. That's fairly complex. It ingests from like 12 different systems. It's getting 95% accuracy. We built a lot of it, but we had them help us with like optimization and token usage and, refining our, error, getting it to that 94, 95% was huge. And now that's what we're launching to the whole company, where you can ask any question, whether it's about product, process, people, internet, like anything on the internet, and it will be able to not only give you an answer, it will analyze all the different sources and make decisions like, oh, I see that it was mentioned in Slack and it was in your KB and it's in a Google Doc, but I know which of these to prioritize and I know which one is the latest. And so I'm going to give you a full-fledged answer that you can give to a customer or that you can use for yourself. And so that's kind of how we did it. And we just were like, everyone was trying to learn as fast as possible. We had a CS AI champions channel in Slack, and we would just post, I did this workflow. I have this prompt. I just figured this out. Have you seen this? And we just kept adding to it and getting to the point where we are now, which is now this team is turning into an AI solutions team. I'm changing the name as the next week. And they will basically, we're going to have a group of champions, like a task force from every department that will sort of dotted line report to this team. And we're going to train the trainer. We're going to train them how to use these tools in their world. So, in sales or in marketing or in finance. And then we're going to basically kind of make sure they can't break stuff and baby steps, same process we went through, but they'll have guidance. And now we built a bunch of building blocks that we can just apply to all these places. And so we're really excited about that. It's going to take quite a bit of coordination and, but all the teams have basically, I got all kinds of people wanting to be a part of this and get access and try to build. And it's been pretty cool because they've seen what we can do and what they can do. And so now I think it's going to become a company-wide thing.
So just to be clear, this task force, this is cross-functional. This is basically folks that are going to come in and lead building out workflows for their respective function.
Basically, yeah.
Taking from the lessons and the stories of what you guys went through.
Yeah, I mean, it's a mix of people. It's like directors in some teams. It's, ICs in other teams. It's less about the role and the level. It's more about the willingness to learn and to push. And these are all kind of the creative builders on their teams.
It feels like you established some FOMO at Cloudbeds of folks that were like,
for sure.
Maybe you started out as like the geeky group, right? That's just like working on this stuff on N8N and all these things, and then now it's like, oh wait, we need to get in here. This is the future of the company, And
absolutely FOMO for sure. I mean, in a good way. Like we want there to be FOMO. We want them to be successful. It's awesome. We're really excited. But yeah, 100%. We've proven it now. They all want to be able to do it, especially the amount of time and efficiency we're gaining and time we're saving is just. They all want that. It's just awesome when we want to be able to help them do it.
You mentioned a couple of archetypes there. You mentioned the visionary, that was yourself. You mentioned the folks that have the knowledge expertise of your own processes, basically like the veteran CSM type folks, right? That also can think about these solutions. You mentioned the builders, the operators are actually, doing all the vibe building, and then a project manager, so to speak. What percentage of folks' time was allocated to these efforts?
So for sure, the knowledge one is less, and that's also one thing. The knowledge worker, the company knowledge, that was maybe a couple hours per week as necessary, right? Depending on what we needed from them to figure it out. The operators full time. I said clear everything. We dropped every other project in CS Tech Ops, unless a system went down, like a system of truth went down, a source of record went down. We were only working on this. For the visionary, myself, I worked on it as much as I could because it's really much funner than my normal job. But generally speaking, it was probably 20% of my time, right? So and then the operator side of it was very much like a 90. I would say 80 to 90% because they still had to do some things that they couldn't drop everything. But as much as possible, I had them drop it. The other thing we did do that I didn't talk about is. One of the most important things about all of this is you have to have enough documentation for the AI to be useful. If your company has zero documentation or it was not written at all for AI and it's basically unreadable or unusable because they're lacking metadata or lacking context, you've got to fix that first. So thank goodness our training enablement team had been using AI to help it change it for AI, basically. So we do a technique that I just learned about. We call it bouncing. We're basically like, we go to each of the 3 to 4 models and say, tell me, OpenAI or Anthropic or, Google or X or what they call it, Grok, and basically say, hey, I need you to take this KB article or this documentation and make it a 5 out of 5 for you to read it. And then you bounce it between the different models. So if it says it's a 3, you say rewrite it to be a 5. Then when it's a 5, you go to the other one and it says it's a 4. Okay, rewrite that to be a 5. And until it's all 5 out of 5, we don't say it's completed. And so that has meant that we went from literally
this is shaping those articles not only for folks that are going to the website to read the articles, but this is shaping the articles for the AI to interpret.
Yeah, and it's shaping it for both AIs, right? Our internal AI that we're building and all the big AIs out there, right? So
interesting. This is a marketing technique as well.
Yeah, so like people used to get to our KBs, less than 2% came from like Google and the Gen AIs, right? So the ChatGPTs. Now 80% of the people who get to our KBs articles come from ChatGPT or Google. So like it completely
because
shifted.
You've optimized the articles for
if you
the
search
LLMs.
For anything for us, we are optimized for them, right? Like we built it for them. So 100%.
No shit. I've never sworn on this episode, on this program since joining Gainsight. Pre-Gainsight, lots of
That's fair.
words. I was
That's
George
fair.
Carlin of podcasting. But no shit. You had like 2% traffic to your KB articles from search and from LLMs. And now optimizing those help articles through the LLMs, you have 80% of your traffic coming from those sources.
Yeah. And like a combo of Google. Like, so what everyone used to do is to go to our website or to go to our application to get our KB articles, right? Because if you went to Google or to the ChatGPT, it was hit or miss. It wasn't written, like it wasn't set up for it, didn't have good metadata, didn't have good tags and labels. Now we're built for that. So now everyone just goes there because it's way easier. You get a better response. It combines it. It knows exactly what you're looking for. And so, yeah, it's shifted. Like it's crazy. It's a complete like flop. Now, very few people go to our website or the app. Most people go through, Google or Gemini or ChatGPT.
Wow. How do you measure that though? How do you know? Because isn't the LLM just feeding the information right there within its own application?
Yeah, because your KV article housing places usually have the source. So we can see whether they came from our app or our website versus coming from the search engines or coming from, so not inside of our apps, but inside of our knowledge base tool, we can see where the source was.
Yeah.
So where did they come from? And it shifted about 6 months ago from like barely any ChatGPT or Gemini, or maybe 8 months ago, to almost entirely coming from that.
So you're truly meeting users where they are.
Trying to. I mean, it's always a work in progress. Like we had a meeting today to try to continually improve that. And it's not whether we've solved it all. So like, for example, everything we have documented, we are really good with. But we're also missing a lot of documentation, right? Because we have complex parts of our application that no one understands exactly super well. And so it's all in our product managers or advanced support teams' heads. It's all tribal knowledge. And so we're coming up with strategies of how do we get that out of their heads into raw content and then put that raw content into our KBs and internal KBs so that the AI can read it and use it to help our teams. Because, and again, that's to the point I made earlier, like if you have zero documentation or very bad documentation, it doesn't matter how good your AI is that you, or agents you build or automations, you will still fall very far short because it can't, it's not a magician, it's pattern recognition. If you give it patterns, it will do a good job of reading it and responding with some training. But if you want it to make it up, it will make it up poorly. Like the hallucination is real. And so you don't want them to be hallucinating on your more complex areas of your application or your company or whatever.
Yeah. And what's the process that you have in place to make sure that the content is kept up to date?
So yeah, it's a semi-manual, semi-AI driven process. So anytime there's a release, it triggers a process where basically the AI goes and checks all our current KBs, internal and external. It checks this, basically, it's got a whole prompt that we built plus some other tools. It checks to see what needs to be updated, right? So what's changing, what are the dependencies, all that type of stuff. Then it will try to change it, send it to a human to review to make sure we're not missing anything or didn't make up stuff. After the humans reviewed it, then they'll do this bouncing technique, right? To get it into a super high quality for the AI models, and then they'll publish. And usually they'll publish like right before the actual release is going out. And now we've gotten to the point where we were doing about 10 KB articles a day. Now we're doing hundreds a day.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here, but barely any actually. There's a lot more I wanted to get into. I'm not going to make folks sit here and listen to an hour and a half episode. I do want to talk about a couple more things. So you've built. Do you think you'll ever come back and buy?
So while we've been building, the reason we built is because we couldn't find anything that wowed us for the cost and for the value, and we've been able to build ourselves. But we have done like 20 POCs with all the major AI platforms and all the a lot of the major specialized platforms. And so we've done it with, Anthropic Enterprise and DevRev, and we've even recently started looking into Gainsight. We will definitely buy. So at some point in the future, it might be a specialized buy. So for example, we use Forethought. Forethought does a really great job for us on the front end of deflection. For me to create that would be really hard, especially with all that we've put in. And I'd have to maintain it. And I will say that one challenge with the build is that you do start to hit points where you have to maintain all of these workflows and things that you've built. You have to scale. The servers have to get bigger. Your OpenAI API, costs start to get more. So there are challenges to sort of navigate that. So because of that, at some point we might need to go to an AI platform, and there's a few that I think are really good out there. At other points, we might need to go more for a specialized, like, hey, we don't want to handle the specific customer success piece of this, right? The signals and all of that, because I'd have to build that custom. Let's go with someone who's an expert in that area. That's, I think, where we probably will short-term do, and that's what we've done up to this point. But we're very open also to be wowed by a platform that says, you can come in and move all of your agents and things over here and still do some other stuff that you really need to do. So it's definitely not we won't ever buy. And we've now proven that my budget has gone way up in what I could spend, right? Because we've proven the value. So I had zero budget 8-9 months ago. Now I have a much larger budget that I could use, but we haven't found anything quite yet with the timing and all the pieces and the funding. And also all these AI companies, and I'm sure you all are still trying to figure out how to price this stuff, right? The AI actions or the AI calls are still a funky gray area. And everyone's sort of, some people are really good at knowledge part. Some people are really good at the agent building part. I haven't seen anyone that's incredible at both necessarily, although there are some good platforms out there. So yeah, I do think we'll buy at some point. Maybe not in the short term, but I'd say in the midterm, it might be, I'm probably more likely to be a specialized buy for certain use cases that we don't want to do or don't think we'll do as well, but might be an AI platform if we get wowed.
Yeah. I want to leave us on this last segment here, this last section of our conversation, which is the impact that your efforts have made. There's a lot more to it that we didn't discuss. 147 other workflows that we didn't discuss, right? Heck, we didn't even discuss the dashboard that one of your teammates, vibe coded over the weekend to calculate.
Shout out to Belle for that one. I told her not to do it, and then she did it anyways. It was amazing.
Yeah, and it tracks all of your agents and shows the ROI and the usage and the performance metrics across all of your agents and how much incredible, right? We didn't even get into that. But before this AI revolution that you and the team led, your team was at 120% capacity, overflowed. They were burning out. They were spending 70% of their time on administrative tasks. There was that fragmented customer experience. You had tools that were sitting partially as shelfware, like you mentioned, Gemini. Afterwards now, you've had the same headcount that you started with, but you're serving 40 to 50% more customers. 75% of routine work has been automated. 70% of time on relationships and strategy. I'm reading off something and I don't know where the rest of that sentence is. So there's something about 70% of the time. You've we're not going to call it a knowledge base, but that knowledge hub that you built is 95% accurate in the Q&A responses it's able to field for people. You've had 75% of your support interactions have been deflected by AI, and you've saved about $4.5 million on the cost of tooling and headcount, quite frankly, right? Of what the equivalent would be.
Yeah, and time saved.
Time saved. Time saved. Right.
Right. Yeah, and all that type of stuff. Yeah, altogether probably somewhere in that range. Yeah, I would say that's an annual savings, right? Not like up to this point, but by the time we get a year in, that's probably where it will be.
Yeah, and then 7,000 hours saved per month. And now again, like you said, like your deployments of new workflows, agents, whatever we're calling them, is daily, weekly. It's not a matter of 2 or 3 months as you roll out. And you've created this culture, clearly, with this new task force, this cross-functional piece that you just mentioned. What stands out to you most? What are you most proud of?
That's a good question. I'm most proud that we've actually been able to really prove value. I think, and I'm most proud of the team. Like, we had a moment where I was like, you just all need to clap for yourself, because like literally what you just told as an update today, like 10 seconds each, right? was what most people would love to have, just as one agent for the course of a quarter. And that team is busting out. So I'm super proud of the team. I'm also very thankful that the company and our leadership has been willing to let us play these things, and the IT team has let us kind of muck it up, and like we wouldn't have been able to do it without it. But I think the probably the biggest thing that I'm most proud of, minus the team part, is that like we have really produced real value. Like it's not just talk, it's not just a POC. Like it is in people's worlds, getting used right now. We just got stats today that we just rolled out a brand new ticket answerer, right? So it tries to answer for the customer, and we got 50% usage in the last couple of weeks that we rolled it out. So like that's what I'm really excited about. People are really using it. It's helping them in their job. It's helping them not be at 120%, and hopefully it's getting them confident to do more and be better in their career. And so it's just fun to be able to say, yeah, we are making a real difference, and AI is real. It's not going away. Sure, there might be some level of bubble in some capacity, but like the value that we can provide, or that anyone who's using AI at scale can provide to an organization, is just crazy.
We started this conversation and I was thinking we were going to instill some FUD, some fear, uncertainty, and doubt in our listeners of just feeling overwhelmed. The work that you've done has cast such a large shadow, potentially on so many people that just are trying to figure out how to get involved. But my hope is that we did unpack a lot of what your effort was. There's still a lot more to unpack, but that folks have a general sense of how you went about it. The fact that you started out in very similar footing as what many people out there are in, that are fearful of really leaning in like you did. And so ultimately, I hope that this is an inspiration for folks that are listening out there. Share it with your leadership, share it with your ELT, share it with your peers at other companies, share it with the folks that work for you. I really think that this episode is very important, that telling your story, Colin, and the story of your organization is super valuable. Again, to set that example for others in the industry to follow, so that a rising tide can lift all boats here.
Yeah, and I'm available to help. I'm probably going to put together some type of community for us, for CS leaders and CX leaders, to try to figure this out. I wish I'd had people to talk to. There's a few people that I could have talked to, and we did talk at times, but for the most part, like this is really hard. You're being asked to make $100 to $1 million decisions for multiple years, and if you make the wrong decision, your job's on the line, right? And so it is not easy. It is very stressful, and I feel overwhelmed and behind too. So if anyone needs some help or wants to know how to navigate, I'm absolutely happy to connect. And like I said, I'm going to probably put together some kind of community where we can learn from each other, as I want to see what you all are doing. We're just trying to figure it out as we go, and hopefully I can learn from you, you can learn from me, and we'll see where we go from there.
Colin Slade, Senior Vice President of AI Strategy and Customer Success. Congratulations on the new part of that title as well, on the AI strategy piece. That's really exciting.
Yeah,
and that's a future of a lot of executive leadership too, right? That role doesn't exist right now in many companies, but it will. So you're ushering that in
and
as well.
And who knows what the role exactly means, but we were trying to figure it out, So that's why I put strategy in there, which strategize what the heck to do with AI.
Well, thank you for sharing your story.
Thanks, Josh.